And now to present our next award, please welcome the president of the Javad Mohagafan Foundation. You're the broadcaster. Would you please welcome Hamid Eshki?
This Courage to Come Back Award recognized that the person who best exemplified the courage and strength it takes, not only to overcome the obstacle of living with the mental illness, but to go on to live their life in the manner that gives hope and assistance to others who live with mental illness.
It began with faces peering in at her from the window. Faces that would disappear when she went outside to look. Voices whispering to her, menacing her. She believed she couldn't trust anyone for fear they would harm her. She began to withdraw. Years of voices and feelings building, getting louder, until one day she desperately painted a message on their house. "Who are you, and why are you doing this to me?" She was finally hospitalized. She was 15 years old. Her name is Sandrayuenmackay. She was placed in a children's ward at Vancouver General Hospital and diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. Angry and confused, she fled the hospital and was finally found hiding in her bedroom. 1 week later, she was hospitalized again, this time in an adult ward. Her clothes were taken away to prevent her escaping. She didn't know it then, but it would be 3 months before she would go home again. A teenage girl, overwhelmed by the voices in her head, angry at her family, vulnerable, frightened, and then molested by an adult patient who threatened her. With medication, little by little, the raging fire of voices in her head were dampened, the paranoia dulled. Even when she was released, she still believed that other students could read her mind. She still lived her life through a haze of fear and anxiety. Sandra was living in hell. And yet, even in all this pain, the true spirit of this remarkable woman showed through. She was hospitalized 5 times during her high school years, yet little by little, she began to gain control of her life. In spite of debilitating mood swings and crippling delusions, she finished high school. In spite of the mind-numbing side effects from the medication, she found the strength to attain an art history degree, and she got married. Her life seemed to be back on track. That is, until her grandmother died. Until she developed symptoms of depression. When she changed medication to combat the depression, she once again developed active delusions of fame and grandeur. She stopped taking her medication. Sandra was hospitalized again, and now diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder, a new and overwhelming challenge. Her anger toward her family became unbearable, and she moved into her aunt's house. Like a woman who jumps from a plane, Sandra was falling into an unfathomable abyss while undoing the buckles of her parachute. But it is often in the darkest places that miracles begin to grow, and she agreed to see a psychiatrist. She began to work on her anger and to reconcile her lost childhood. Like a painter standing in front of a blank canvas, Sandra slowly began to repaint the colors of her life. She agreed to work on a medication regime. She started to exercise, and with one tiny brushstroke at a time, her symptoms began to stabilize. Darkness became sunshine. Chaos became order. One day she realized she was lonely. She missed her husband, and soon they were living together again, and this time Sandra was determined to defeat the demons forever. She began to learn everything she could about schizoaffective disorder. She began to paint, and soon after began writing. She joined the Art Studios program and taught creative writing. Soon her own writing was published. Few writers are able to articulate the anguish of mental illness as well as Sandra. In 2010, her memoir, My Schizophrenic Life, was published to glowing reviews. To date, she has spoken over 60 times to educators, health professionals, and families. Her powerful message is simple. People with mental illness can recover, and people who hear her message seldom forget it. Because Sandra speaks with the voice of experience. Her stories are rooted in the unassailable facts of her life. The hope she instills was born in the hopelessness she once knew. Sandra has forgiven the mental health system, and most importantly, forgiven herself. An important step in her recovery. Sandra never forgets those who still desperately seek recovery. Her voice is their voice. Her words are their words. And her life is their hope. Hope for strength and the courage to come back.
Ladies and gentlemen, 2012, the Courage to Come Back Award recipient for mental health, Sandrayuenmackay.
Thank you so much. Hello, guests, friends, and fellow recipients. Receiving this award is an amazing time for me. I feel I've entered a phase of celebration and renewal. When I reflect back, I see the miracles in my life in the form of opportunities and people who have influenced my journey. Despite the suffering in my past, I believe I came out the other end a better person. My illness not only enhanced my creativity, but also made me recognize the positives in my life. And on that note, I'd like to first thank Sarah Sininen, the coordinator of the Art Studios, a mentor, friend, and colleague who nominated me for this award. Thank you, Sarah, for putting all the pieces together of my complex history, which helped make it possible for me to be standing here today. Thanks to my friends and colleagues at the Art Studios and the Consumer Initiative Fund for their continuing support. I'd also like to thank the following people who wrote letters of support for my nomination. First, Debbie Sasula, who is a past Courage to Come Back Award recipient. Regina Casey, a good friend and colleague. Susan Inman, a fellow writer. Jane Duval of the BC Schizophrenia Society. Sharon Marmion, clinical planner that I worked with on the tertiary projects. And thanks to Merle Ginsberg of the Consumer Initiative Fund, Donna Hagland, Dr. Larry Ong, Dr. Harvey Marcus, and Sue Yunmar, my beloved mother. I'd like to thank my wonderful husband, Glenn, who has cared for me all these years. He said he didn't need to read my memoir because he had lived it. He has been my rock of Gibraltar. Thanks to my mother and sisters, Colleen and Adina, for their love and support. I'd like to thank my father, Gordon Yun, who passed away years ago, so he's looking out for me now. I also like to thank the Mackay clan, my second family, who look after me as one of their own. To my fellow recipients, I wish you the best tonight and in the future. And I'd like to thank Coast Mental Health, who continue to do amazing work in the community. I've met people that have been helped by Coast Mental Health. I think they're a wonderful organization, and they've treated us really well. I too will be in the trenches, continuing to share my story and message of hope that recovery from mental illness is possible. It's important to see each day as a clean slate, a new beginning, a new opportunity to live life to the fullest. Thank you all.